Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Reaoch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the Business Connection, the world's first English-language internet radio program about business in Brazil and now in podcast format. I'm Tom Reaoch, an American in Brazil for many years and known as the King of Networking, a speaker and author on networking. A professional business network is made up of people we meet every day. Our network grows by maintaining contact with those connections. Podcasting is a modern form of networking. I'm talking from the city of Campinas in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. So when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Today's guest is Igor Marinelli. He's Brazilian, founder and CEO of Traction. That's Tractian. And he studied at the University of California, Berkeley, where he intersected computer engineering, entrepreneurship, and technology. He is also founder of sth.org.br, a digital NGO with a gamified approach to help Brazilian children who need medical treatment and surgery. Igor has been presiding and directing the podcast development for over the last 3 years. Igor and I recently met here in Campinas at the Inova Campinas Innovation Festival, where we had a chance to chat briefly and exchange business cards. So with that, Igor, hello and welcome to Talk to Brazil.
Hello, Tom. Hello, y'all. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here.
No, it's my pleasure. I think you're a fascinating person. I said we did meet briefly. Actually in front of the stand of 100 Startups, which was a sort of a meet-up place to put people face-to-face. And that's where we talked briefly, exchanged cards, saw your LinkedIn profile,
yeah, exactly.
and here we are talking. So you have a fascinating, from what I've seen, a fascinating experience. Studied at Berkeley, came back to Brazil, and now starting up. So tell us a little bit about yourself and Traction.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's how I met you there. You're really the king of networking. I think the first reason that I attend those types of events here in Brazil, it's basically to what matters for me is who's going to be there more than the presentation, right? And then I met you. My whole trajectory, I think, started based in the NGO that you pointed. It's STH. Mm-hmm. And when I started computer engineering here in Brazil, before going to the University of California in Berkeley, I noticed this situation where it's just like my first year of college. So as a freshman, and I didn't know what to do much, but I had some troubles hacking stuff before. I was suspended at school, and I gave my parents a hard time.
Really?
So I think,
you didn't give me that impression.
I think they really liked that I went to university and just took off their hands. So when I was just passing by this avenue here in Brazil, I noticed there was a father holding a sign that was written, "Campaign Help My Child," and the name of his child was Enrique. So, but what this father was doing was basically offline crowdfunding. So right. He was there at the light traffic. I think it's a very common situation here. Mm-hmm. And he was asking for money for his child who needs a medical surgery.
Right.
Especially cerebral palsy. It's like a very non-condition. Mm-hmm. And those surgeries are very costly. They cost 30K reais, mm-hmm. Or around 10K mm-hmm. US dollars. So, but I asked this father, how do I know if this money is really going for your kid, right?
Right.
I don't have any guarantee. And he said, no, but you can transfer me the money too. Here's my bank accounts. And I said, but still, how do I know that this money is really going for this treatment?
Right.
So, and I always had this problem or solution, whatever you call that. I see a problem and I start doing it. So, but that was a problem for a long, long time because I've never turned my things into business. Uh-huh. It was just sitting down, coding, and then a month later, approached this father and said, here it is, the platform that's going to help you. So,
so you went back and actually talked to the guy again? That's it?
Exactly. Then we put his kid in my platform, which the whole goal was to make sure that the money was going to the kids. So instead of transferring to the parents, instead of doing all of that, we were doing what they call today blockchain offline. We were at every single step of this transaction, going to the doctor, going to the hospital, paying the hospital, getting the fiscal note, right? The invoice and sending to the donators, which are like basically the main clients and NGOs.
Right.
So based on that, and then I've done it. Some like news, television started interviewing me because they liked the idea so much. But for me, it was more like, okay, I've done it, and now I'm moving to the next one. But then I thought, wait, I think I can commit some more of my time to this, because I guess it can have like much more impact than just helping this father.
Wow.
So I stayed around for almost 4 years, like controlling a little bit of my, let's say, inner feeling that seeing a problem, start coding right away to do that. I even done that to my mom. She's a psychologist, and she was having trouble in like finding some other clients. Then within a month, I've done like a online therapy platform for her.
Wow.
Which failed again, of course, because all I knew at that time was coding, right? And she didn't have the entrepreneurial skills.
Well, there's a lot of people today that don't know coding, so you just can't say you only know coding, because today that's sort of the top of the iceberg. If you don't know coding, you have to know somebody who knows coding.
I agree totally.
I don't know coding, so that's why I want
Well, you know me.
That's it.
And I don't know business, so that's why we're together.
That's the secret to success. Just know who knows. You don't need to know.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, hopping on like where I am right now, that I founded my startups called Traction. But Traction always it started to solving this very specific problem that industries have, which is getting insights from their data. And the main point here is not because they don't know machine learning. It's kind of like overhated still. Machine learning is not even the let's say the cherry of the cake, right? But it's more like how, if you have the culture, the appropriate culture to manage that data, because most of times you go and then implement those business intelligence platform, take a year to like implement, and then a year to learn how to use, and then it's already 2 years, and you're like, okay, but how do I get any insights from that? Because you're not used to take insights from data. You're more taking insights on your guts or what you're used to do already.
Right.
So I started solving this specific problem for a pulp and paper industry here in Brazil. So this whole paper area. And the software turned out to really help them to first save time from their process engineers. So it saved basically like 5,000 hours in a year in terms of calculations that they had to do and process indicators, KPIs. So it saved that, and then they started noticing also like an improvement in their processes, which will lead to like a very quick payback, and also like a 20% increase efficiency.
Just let me ask one question here.
Yes,
as I mentioned, you just returned to Brazil in July from Berkeley.
Exactly.
Did you have the idea of Traction in your head somewhere before you came back? Did you come back to do this? Is this another thing you saw once you got here and had a feeling of there's a problem and I can solve it? What's that? Where did this start? And when did it start?
It definitely started in Berkeley, because I've noticed this whole wave of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and I really love to work with data. I've also done an application for a hospital one time to prevent chronic diseases. So then I thought like, wow, this place is really full already with this technology.
Right.
Why can't Brazil industries or any industries in the world that's kind of like industries are very detached from startups, which is like crazy thing. Startups
Right.
can
I
really
agree. I
save
agree.
you,
Hmm.
yeah, can really save you a lot of money and time in a process because like startups generally they solve a very specific problem that the industries are having,
Hmm.
and the industries are this like yeah this whole conjunction of a very specific problems, but most of the time they try to solve it more in a more general way, calling
Right.
a big
Right.
consulting firm
Right.
and then spending a lot of time. But it was there at Berkeley, and then because I was doing this crazy coding for everyone, I was I was
Well,
working as
coding
like
is
a
everything. So coding is for everyone. It really doesn't, I guess. One day I'm going to sit down. You're going to actually show me what coding is. I really have no idea.
well, I use
I
lots
know
of
it's
stuff like
important, but
Python, PHP. I started with PHP actually at that time that my parents were
uh,
worried. It's very important. Yes, I think, like you
no,
said.
it is. But somebody says sit down and code. Well, coding for me was something done during the Second World War to make people not understand others, and now coding is something to make everybody understand everything. So
It's,
just
it's
a
less romantic as it sounds.
uh,
It's
no,
less
but
romantic.
no, it is. It's good, but make it because it is. But what I see now, and I've heard from what you just said, just putting
Hmm.
pieces together,
Yeah.
uh, you have transitioned from a bad boy to a good boy.
Yes.
All right.
Perfect
So you left
description.
Brazil,
Yeah.
went to Berkeley as a bad boy. You came back as a good boy,
Mm,
and you know coding.
yeah.
All kinds
From
of,
my
coding, and not
parents,
only coding,
I
you
still.
apply coding to any type of problem. And as you say on LinkedIn, you are a machine. What is a machine? You are a genius, right?
I thought I was, right?
No, you are. And if you don't say you are, nobody knows you are. So you have to say that. So it's machine learning genius. That's your headline.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
that's it, and that's you are. So for me and a bunch of millions of people, uh, persons in corporations, as you just said,
Hmm.
it's difficult to understand how a genius's mind works, and you know that there's millions of examples of that out there.
Yes.
But you do have to purvey yourself as a genius, which you do very well. And help people that don't understand the content of a genius's mind understand it a little bit. And you're doing that. You've set up a sth.org.br NGO that's helping children for the last 3 years, and you've applied everything you
Hmm.
know to a very good cause. So,
Yes.
and the same thing, if you apply that same process to companies or other people, it's going to work because the process works. It doesn't matter if it's a child or if it's a problem within an organization. So
Hmm.
as I said, you're the top of the iceberg. Everybody else is just in the iceberg. Data, like you
Hmm.
said, managing data is the iceberg.
Is the whole
Everybody has an
iceberg. Yes.
iceberg and they don't know what to do with it.
Yes. Hmm.
Wow. So now you got off the plane, came back to Brazil. While you were in
Hmm.
Berkeley, I imagined you knew how to network. You saw how people network there. You simply sit down and talk to people. Then you came back to Brazil. Was it frustrating or were you happy coming back here and networking?
No, I was actually really happy. I think, especially this São Paulo region,
Hmm.
I saw a lot of things that I actually, um, let's say, like it's hard to compare, but I was really satisfied in both of scenarios. What I think
Okay.
that Berkeley has a lot is this huge advanced networking.
Right.
So people know how to network there. Like every corner you find another Tom Reaoch, right? Uh,
I don't know. Maybe.
like people are really, really good and advanced in that topic. And
Okay.
here we really need your help, I think,
Okay. Well, had
because
you been here to
Mhm.
Campinas before when we met? I saw when I asked you why were you here, and then you said you went in and did a search, and you searched everything, and the event popped up, and there you were. Uh,
Mhm.
so you came to Campinas. What did you think from a networking perspective? How did you feel, and what did you see coming here to Campinas?
I think Campinas is at a place that São Paulo was kind of 2 years ago. Like we are seeing this huge increasing of startup numbers,
Right.
and a lot of incentives to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether in São Paulo already, like it's already kind of full. Of course, it always has space for 2 times, 10 times more than it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But people here are more used. Oh, startup, of course. And in Campinas, like, no, wait, tell me exactly what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta go from the basis, and people are generally also more interested in what you're saying. Whether here in São Paulo, it's like more, also it's more busy and hard to stop and talk to someone and say, yeah, I do this, and let's try to connect somehow. But both places are, really good to do business.
It's good what you said. They're just at different stages. São Paulo's at one stage, Campinas. But you wanted to come here. Something told you, go to Campinas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like I said, I think as a startup mind, I barely look at the content where I'm going, and sometimes I even get surprised. I was like, oh, hey, this person is here, right? Let me sit and listen for a while. But we get so conditioned to like search for good people,
right?
And I think that's why I came. That's why I went there.
Okay.
Because of like the companies and how generally the organizer works.
Mm-hmm.
And generally you get surprised by the content too. So
right.
Which is very good.
Well, and that's a point I want to make. I didn't know you. You didn't know me. You didn't know I was going to be there, and I didn't know you were going to be there, right?
Yeah.
But for the same reason, I was there because I knew I would cross and find and see and meet interesting people. And I did, and you're one of those interesting people. And that's part of my process of networking. Not necessarily who's going to be there, but knowing that somebody will be there. And for me, whoever's there, everybody, is a potential important content and contact, not only for the content of the person, but people know people.
Definitely.
And one thing leads to another. But I was really impressed, and this is back to you, because my habit at that event, I stopped at many stands, talked to many people. What I do, I've trained myself to do because of the startup and innovation concept. I give people 1 minute to explain to me what they do. Mm-hmm. And I tell them up front, you have a minute to tell me what you do. And it's that minute that's going to make me talk to them for another minute or maybe another minute. But if they can't be objective in the first minute, I'll thank them. And many times I don't even have a business card, and I'll find somebody else.
Yeah.
And you, within a minute, and you're the example I want to use, in 1 minute, you were very clear and objective of why you were there, what you were doing, had a card, gave it to me. And I don't think we talked for more than 3 minutes there.
Yeah, I guess that was it, 3 minutes, and you can feel that energy already. I think if you're not prepared in telling what you do, like in 1 minute, it's just who's going to talk to you, right? Because people just have less and less time and more content out there. So you got to be very specific, transparent, I think, like black and white when you're talking, when you're posting something, when you're writing your content, when you're doing your landing page. Because people, you just have like this few seconds of interactions. And basically, my few seconds of interactions always happen like when it's the most random situation, like you're just grabbing a coffee and stumble upon someone, right?
Walking into an elevator, that's it. Or
you're talking about their sneakers, or like, oh, I liked your T-shirt, and things like just started from there. Most of times with me, it's not even like, oh, tell me what to do. It's first something like, oh, I like your T-shirt, or you like the coffee here, or something like that, which already create kind of this, because you when you go to these events, like the more you stay there, you're more, you already listen to the same thing over and over. That's the impression, right?
Well, and many times it is, and that's not bad, because many times there are people there for the first time. And it's good for people to hear everything anywhere, no matter who's speaking about whatever it is. It's good. But obviously, as you just said, once you've heard it several times and you know what's going to be said, you try to find people who are going to say something new, different, innovative in any atmosphere. Or maybe say the same thing in a different way or talk about a solution or a problem, whatever. And I think that works as well. But the important thing, and I think you solve that and we solve that, is finding people and talking to people. Just for our audience, right after we did that, I was sitting down having a coffee. You're talking about coffee. And I tell everybody, business in Brazil starts with coffee. But you saw that in Berkeley. Business in Berkeley starts with coffee.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I was sitting there in a chair, and you and your business partner walked by, right? I saw you again. I asked you to stop, took your picture. I asked you, can I take a picture? You said yes. And I take pictures of people because it helps me remember who they are. Because during that day, I probably met 200 people, saw 200 people, exchanged cards with probably 50 people. And it's hard to remember who's who, specifically after spending a day in an event like that. So I take a lot of pictures, file them so that I can put the face to the card. Then I can find the person like I did with you on LinkedIn, and then saw everything about you. Which you didn't say in 3 minutes, but you have the content that I can look for after those 3 minutes and say, well, and I said hello, sent you back some articles that you liked. You said, hey, could I talk on your podcast? And here we are. And that was a week ago, all right? For our audience, that all happened within about a week.
As a programmer, I struggle a little bit with this part that you're saying, which was clarifying what I was selling. Right, because very technical mind. So it took me a while to understand. Okay, first you just want to be intuitive, short, and that's what I told you. Right, you asked me, and I said, yeah, I help industries to start making better decisions backed by data, and that's what I do. And if you feel
that's all keywords. That's all I need to understand because I'm not a coder. I don't know PH whatever. So it's hard. So you have to say to me. And others, what are you talking about? Another coder, everybody else you met there who could code, you can talk about a lot of stuff. But to me, it's confusing. And you were very clear and precise. Keywords again. You could, if you take everything you said and put it in a hashtag, that's your presentation.
Yeah. But also generally, when we are selling, I take care of a lot of this part because I was just for people at my startup, right?
Right.
But I think the selling part, let's say, of what you do and the software, which is the software as a service model for industries, which is already new. They are used to buy huge license, put it there in their computers, and then never receiving a single update, and not also knowing how to extract their own data from the software, which is kind of crazy. But it's important also in that pitch circumstances to put also technical people, but I guess it's more like technical people needs to understand more of the business of the business knowledge, and the same applies to the business knowledge. When I go to a stand or an exhibit and I talk to someone that's 100% business, I'm kind of frustrated. I'm like, okay, but how about this? and I have the impression that they don't know their own product. I go crazy. How did this company put someone here that, at the first question they don't know how to answer me? It's they gotta have at least a small understanding of what they're selling in terms of the technical side too. Because
now you have come to the point of creating another product, another solution. You can go home and code about that. Of the need of having at presentations, maybe a robot that does that in a more different fashion. Because, and maybe I agree with you, many times at the stands, people do not know the basics of the product or what they're purveying, and it's frustrating. But there's a whole lot of place for improvement, and I think that's good. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time, Igor, and I want to just say that I'm absolutely fascinated by having had the opportunity to meet you. You've convinced me that bad can be good and good can be bad. All right. And both work for different times. All right. But I think what I've seen you apply and what you learned out there in terms of networking is the value of people that you meet, and having a process that for me is clear in your head of doing the analysis even before. And that's what many people don't go. They just go somewhere and say, well, I'm here. Actually, you showed me that you do your research before going to an event, do a pre-planning before you enter the door, and then the rest can be at random. Because actually in that setup, at random, anywhere and anybody you meet, it's good, right?
Yeah,
and that's definitely how it works. So you've and the other thing I want to congratulate you is on the sthorg.br. And that's another important thing to everybody, is to look at society, look at where you live. How can we help people? How can we help the guy standing on the corner who has a daughter that's in a very precarious situation? And how you, in a fantastic way, applied what's in your head to a solution, putting everything together that you know. And it works, and 3 years later it's growing, and now you're on the board of that. So I think that's fantastic. All right, so you're one of my best people today. All right.
Thank you so much.
No,
Tom.
seriously, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. And for me, having gone to that event, and if I have a takeaway, I have a takeaway from every event. You were one of my top takeaways.
Thank you. It's very nice to hear that. I still haven't convinced my parents that I'm not the bad guy, but
I don't want to say anything because I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, but mothers are mothers.
Exactly.
And mothers know a whole lot, and maybe that's another coding situation. How can you code your mother? But my impression that you're a good guy.
And let me just let this thing for the end. I think you talked about the NGO, and for me that's it. Not even the NGO or the company. It's more like if you're learning something and if you're being useful to someone, why not, right?
Right.
You have lots of challenges and things that you're going to gain for yourself in that process.
No, and you gain insight to people. And the whole world's about people. It's not about machines. It's about people. There are people next to machines, on top of machines, making machines. So I think that and that's for everybody. Say that to everybody. We need to have a basic understanding of people. Be sensitive to people. And then there's all kinds of problems. There's all kinds of solutions. But if you don't have that sensitivity, why do the rest? Anyway, Igor, thanks for sharing your time. Thank you so much. Early. We're going to have you back. There are other topics I want to talk to you about, and we'll do that. But certainly enlightening talking to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the audience.
And I also want to thank our audience for sharing their time and spending it here with Igor. And also like to invite you to visit our website, which is talktobrazil.com, where you'll find today's interview with Igor. And that's Igor Marinelli, Marinelle. And you'll find him on our site. You'll find his LinkedIn profile and his website, traction.com. And that's TR. You want to spell that out for us, Igor? TRACTIAN.com. You got it. And the LinkedIn profile is also chock full of interesting things. So you can also find this and our previous shows of Talk to Brazil on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Himalaya, CastBox, Google Podcast, and many, many others. And thank you, our audience. We remind everyone that today's program was brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, and Focus MI specializes in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. And more about them on their site, FOCUSMI.com. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Tom Reaoch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.